Love is the answer. Love heals. I mean, love is the ultimate energy. And I think that's what our whole journey's about. I was born and raised in Raleigh, always active, always, I was a gymnast, I was a cheerleader, competitive cheerleader, played tennis, always did a lot with physical fitness. So I saw Pilates in a magazine and I found somebody locally that was teaching it. I started taking private lessons, and actually I could only afford 30-minute lessons, so I was doing that once a week, and I was taking her mat class. And I just fell in love with it when I was in high school. And then for my high school graduation present, instead of having a party, my parents paid for me to get certified. And I went to college, and the freshman year of college, I started teaching. So I was teaching, and then I opened a studio a few years later. I was owning my studio. It's just funny how I say it. I dated so many guys in the area, and it was kind of like, all right, there has to be more people out there. And I got on Match.com, and I kind of wasn't active on it because I really didn't have the time running a studio. Well, John became a Navy SEAL, and he is a combat medic, and he came to Fayetteville. And when he got here, he got on Match.com because he knew he was going to be here for a year, and he wanted to connect with people. And the day he got here, we met each other on Match, and then a few days later, we went on our first date and dated ever since. Isn't that cute? When he first drove up, it was pretty funny because he drove up in a yellow BMW. I was like, who is this fool? Like, what are you driving? Then we went on a double date, and he ordered a pomegranate martini. Like, what a girly drink he ordered, right? Not what a Navy SEAL would. But I think our faith was what drew us close together, because I'd never really met anybody that kind of had the same beliefs as I did, and outlook of life. I think it was like a bond right then and there. We went on a date on a Thursday, and we actually hung out till Sunday, until that whole weekend, and he didn't even kiss me till like Sunday. So like, he was like that good boy, like it was very sweet. He loved to play golf. I love to go to the spa. But what we loved to do together, we'd watch movies a lot. He started doing yoga with me right before the accidents. That was super cool, and I wish one day we'll get back to that. He loved to grill out, so he loved entertaining people. He was the type of person that hospitality was his thing. Come over, I'm gonna feed you. But when we first dated, I actually cooked, and then when we got married, I stopped cooking. Whoops. So John was really handy. So he always liked to, do fix-it-up things. He always liked to take on tasks, and he always liked to try to do anything for anyone. He was that person. Like if somebody asked him, I need this, or he would figure it out. Yeah, he was always thinking about everybody else before him. Then his accident happened right before our 5th year anniversary. So the accident actually happened 2 miles from our home. That night, I was teaching Pilates in my studio, and him and a buddy went downtown to have some dinner after work. And that night, this huge fire happened downtown Raleigh, and he was sending me pictures of it. And being a combat medic, he was like, oh, I'm gonna try to help. That was kind of the last I heard from him, and because it was getting late and I needed to go to bed. And so I went to bed, and in the middle of the night, I got a phone call. We're not really sure what happened because it was only one car, so we think it was speed, other things. We don't know if something ran out in front of them. We really don't know. But he lost control, and they did a few tumbles, and they hit a tree. But the driver he came to, he's totally fine, and then John was unresponsive, so yeah. They didn't think he was gonna make it at all. And they didn't tell me anything. When they called, they just called and said, your husband's unresponsive. They said, you need to get here as soon as you can. He had not been taken to the ICU. He was still just kind of in the emergency room. And he looked like his normal self, just sleeping, right? And all bruised up and all this blood everywhere on him. And they called in to donate his organs at that point, yeah. Nobody was jumping to help him. I was kind of like, come on, you guys, let's take care of him. Let's get him in the ICU. But at that point, I think really it was just a waiting game. It started to be a waiting game. They really had no idea. And I actually whispered in John's ear and I said, if it hurts too bad, I understand if you have to go, don't hold on for me. But I had this huge peace from God that this wasn't his time. There's all these different things that they were kind of monitoring at this point. So what they wanted to see was that overnight, maybe he would start like emerging more or showing more signs that there was life still there. The only thing that we were getting response from is his eyes. And that was pretty much all we were getting from him for almost a month. So he had a diffusal axon injury, meaning his whole brain shook. So everything inside of his brain shook and all the neurons pulled. So he had tears throughout his whole brain. So he had little bleeds throughout his whole brain. Having the Pilates background, like from the beginning, like I saw him laying there, I'm like, you guys, we got to correct his posture. Like you can't just let him lay there like that. And I'm having them prop his head differently. I'm looking at the alignment of the spine because I'm like, okay, he's got to be able to breathe. And I was rubbing his feet every day and just kind of, I'm like the big toe, I got to get that stimulated for the brain. And, just started doing those things from the beginning. Isn't that cool? Did you think it was cool? I know, but the other cool thing is whenever I would come in the room, because you want to keep his, when the body's on this whole storming thing, you want to keep all the levels down, his blood pressure down, everything. Whenever I came into the room, his heart rate would go way up. Everybody's like, leave the room, leave the room. I'm like, no, I'm staying right there with my man, right? Yes. The longer you're in a coma, the longer usually it takes to emerge. And emerging looks nothing like the movies, and it's ugly, it's scary, it's like you go through these different layers. In Pilates we talk about it too, as we're teaching somebody, we're pulling layers out from them. It might be physical, it might be emotional. That's the same thing that when you're emerging consciousness, it's different levels of the brain that are waking up and they're healing. First we might get just like a flicker of the toe, and that might be all we get for a week, right? And then like the next week we might get his hand moving, and that's like all we get, or his eyes might start looking one way. For weeks he would not look to the left, like he would only look to the right. And then he would go through, he was fixated on a sweatshirt I wore, and he would like pull on my string like for hours. Like those are just kind of things that would happen. It's hard to even describe how bizarre the emerging consciousness is. And it drew out, and what I was getting fed from the doctors is, we're past the 3 to 6 months, this is really what he's going to be. So then you have me that knows that it's going to be more, and I knew that there was more behind him. And actually I had this, I can't communicate to my husband, and nobody on any level can really understand what's going on if you haven't been through it. I have support system, but it's an ugly journey. So, I just drew closer to God, and God would always give me like these insights. I'd run into the hospital saying, I need to talk to somebody. I know what's going on. And I would talk to somebody, and I've so many times doctors or case managers they would be like, you've got to stop trying to figure it out. Like, this is just how he's going to be. And I was like, no, but I know what's going on. And it wasn't that I was going and searching for it. It was like a click, like God would tell me, like, this is what's going on. Tell them this is what's going on. And many times they would not listen to me, but then it would turn out being what I told them. Not until I started trusting myself and what I was getting, like, fed through me, that when I get insight, I know it's right, and I have to trust it, and I have to keep going with it, and rather than allowing the outside noise saying, no, that's not it. Because a lot of times that outside noise draws us further away from healing because we're not taking care of what's going on. And that's where my faith came in, because it's like so many times I was told this might be it. Or, you might need to think about what would he want. There was a lot of fear coming in, driving, and then, I'm sitting here trying to flood him with love, because I really feel like positivity and what you say and kind of that whole higher level of energy makes a difference. I didn't want to go in and give him negative every day. Where he's at today, if this is it, then he's perfect just like he is, and allowing him to be present here and now. That's all I wanted, is him to feel clarity and peace and joy. I didn't care of anything else. I don't care if he never talked again, if he never walked again. I just wanted him to be joyful and just to feel that love. And that's the crazy thing about his injury. It's unknown, and life is unknown. And when you surrender and just let life happen, that's when change happens. Just like with the work of Pilates, you have to just be present. I feel like you can't just go through the motions. You can't just like go to a big class and just think that you're gonna get the same benefits if you go and take a private lesson on the right equipment and you really kind of just focus in. So we connect on an energy level. We can't communicate like verbally, but on an energy level, you know, I'm able to work with him. So we started with energy. We do a lot of like frequencies, a lot of music, a lot of what I like to say passive therapy. You know, we do a lot of devotional readings. I sing to him a lot. I like dance, as you guys have seen on videos. I do anything just kind of bring a smile to his face, and I try to make it playful. I like, one thing somebody told me is don't take it serious. This journey, don't take it seriously, and just enjoy it. Enjoy the journey of it, and that's kind of what I've taken from it. You know, it's ugly sometimes, it's funny sometimes. I mean, remember we were in speech therapy and they gave him a cup. And he took the cup and he shook it like he was going to drink it. And I was like, there's Jon, he's here.
Do it again. You're touching my cheeks. You got me. Let's do it again.
Post-accident, I feel like it's such a blessing having the Gratz equipment here and ready to go. You think about how just Pilates created the system. It was for soldiers in World War and, you know, in the concentration camp, and how to use springs and pulleys on the hospital beds. And what I love about the Gratz system is that it's actually tailored to somebody strong like Jon, because his strength, if I was to put him on different apparatus, he would just move through it and it wouldn't give him any feedback to his body. But this equipment really is giving him feedback to the body where the imbalances are to help him heal. But what I've found ever since we started working on the equipment, his whole system is working better. I'm trying to focus on what he needs for daily living, or like what is essential for him to be able to do the functional things that he needs to do. And Pilates gives me that. Now, why do I like Gratz with it is it's strong enough for him. He has not lost his strength. And so it supports his body. I can put it on the, you know, the spring load or the different to assist his body, to give him that extra oomph that his body needs. Roll up and roll down on the Cadillac is amazing to watch the progress. First we do it, it's like all over the place, so jerky, and now he's actually rolling up and down, which is helping him the ability. He can't sit up in bed by himself. You know, you don't think about those basic things, but this is allowing him to feel that articulation and also to feel the spine move again. So I use this ladder barrel to stand him and let him lean over it. So we're starting to get that pressure back onto his stomach, because you think 2 years he was in a hospital bed on his back. I had no other place in my house to allow Jon to stand up like he is able to at the end of the Cadillac. Now, what I love about the Gratz Cadillac is the width. It's not overly wide. So it's like right where he needs to come straight up. And it's sturdy and it's strong.
I love this. Does this feel good? You're lucky. You are lucky.
I feel like the Pilates community has been like, again, my backbone. Like when this all happened, everybody was reaching out. Like they did this whole thing one Christmas to like a GoFundMe for me to take care of myself. I mean, like that it just meant so much to me. Not necessarily the monetary part of it, but just the backing of the whole community. So I feel like that's been huge. And then, you know, with the GoFundMe, so many people have donated from the community, and then we were able to get an elevator. You know, the GoFundMe is all for things for Jon, the alternative medicine we're doing. I'm full-time watching him 24/7. So I just have to find ways to do it. You know, I have a monitor, so if he's sleeping, then I can go and get other things done around the house. But for self-care for me, so it's mind and body always. So every day, in some kind of way, I have to do some kind of physical work. Mat work has been like my lifesaver. I always do the 100 every day, you know, try to do some breath work, try to do some rolling, trying to do some spine twists, you know, always trying to move my spine in all directions because I'm lifting Jon. And all the therapists along the way, they're like, Laura, be careful, you're gonna hurt yourself. I'm like, but I have the body mechanics from teaching Pilates and doing Pilates that I know how to take care of myself, which has been, again, another blessing. I'm lifting a 200-pound guy and I'm holding his balance for everything. I mean, he used to be dead weight and I would lift him up. Yeah, and people think I lift weights and stuff. No, these are from Jon, from lifting him. Yeah, so my self-care is mind-body work, and mind-body is breathing. Like the mind part is breathing or being in silence or writing or journaling, just really connecting back to myself. And then also I do a lot of like energy healing for myself, a lot of touching base on the deeper levels of the trauma that's within my body and releasing that. Right at that moment that I think I'm gonna break, something miraculous happens. And I'm like, that's why I'm doing this, right? So I had to let go of like the selfish part of it, of, you know, what about me? What about me? Like, yes, I take care of myself, and I think on a level, you know, that's a duty on my part to serve my purpose. I have to take care of myself. But I also realize that I'm not here for me, I'm here for God to speak through me. And I think that's what our whole journey's about, because God wouldn't have kept us alive, or kept Jon alive, if there wasn't a reason to, right? Really finding the bigger purpose of it and less of, you know, it's all about me, and seeing Jon and I as one, because we're a union, we married each other. When we said I do, we said we're gonna try to work it out, you know, no matter what. Now, have we had our points that we wanted to go separate ways? Absolutely, but we always turned to God and said, okay, God, get us back together. And in a situation like this, as dark as it is, not being able to communicate, him and I, on an earthly level, like through, he can't gesture to me, he couldn't speak to me, he couldn't write to me, he couldn't do anything. We had to connect on a soul level. And that's the deeper energy level that God wanted us to feel. And I think that's our message to the world, is that you have to connect with somebody on a soul level. Like, you really need to stop, be in silence, be in stillness, and really feel the energy, because we all are made up of energy. And to really, I mean, it goes back to Pilates in the sense of, like, you can't just go to a group class and just go through the motions. You actually need to be present in your own body and like do what your body needs, and stop and be still and listen, rather than just more noise and chaos. So I think in our situation, I just kept loving Jon, and I always will love Jon, on a level knowing his soul was with me. Love is the ultimate energy, and love is God, and God is love. And realize that you can't control everything. At the end, you have to just let go and trust it will unfold itself. He'll never be exactly how he was, but he's gonna be perfect just how he is. I feel that his future is going to be a story for the world to hear. I think he has a lot of insight and a lot of wisdom that he has to share. This time on earth is only but a small speck of the whole eternity, and that this is my purpose on this earth. Through the darkness, we can find light. So, you know, you have to find the good and the bad. If we lived in love more, then this world would be so much easier.
Rocket. Queen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
JG.
Yeah, what's up?
Oh my gosh!